we are just waking up here in Leask Cove, and today is a very exciting day because we are making the long journey up Bute Inlet. We are just waking up here in Leask Cove. A little bit of a tricky anchorage because it's a private...
Somebody owns the land, but they don't own the water.
It is very, very deep here, upwards of like 315 feet, just like over there. And right now we are currently anchored in 40 feet or so, and we're literally half a boat length away from the shore.
The stern of the boat is in 32 feet, and we're like 10 feet from a rock.
It just feels a little bit odd. It feels like we should be up on the rocks. And that's kind of the challenge with Bute Inlet, is that there's not a whole lot of anchorages. This is the last one before we travel the 40 miles up to the head of the inlet, where we hope to see some pretty amazing mountains, glaciers, maybe some grizzly bears.
So Bute Inlet is 65 kilometers long, or 40 nautical miles, and it's flanked by two mountain ranges that run parallel either side of it, and they have peaks on them that are like 2.5 kilometers high. At the head of the inlet is Mount Boddington, which goes up to over 4 kilometers. The biggest mountain in BC, and it has a huge glacier up on the top which feeds two rivers that then run down to the headwaters of Bute Inlet, making the water this kind of milky, greeny blue color. It's very opaque, so you can't see any of the debris, logs that are all stuck in the silt, so it makes anchoring really challenging up there. We've heard some pretty wild stories about people getting their boats hung up on the mud flats at the tidal drop. All the outflow from the rivers shifts around constantly, so the charts aren't particularly accurate, and then there's like decades upon decades of logging industry debris scattered through the entire thing, so snags are galore. The other huge challenges is the weather patterns inside the inlet. You're kind of away from regular wind patterns, and you have inflow winds in the morning when the earth is warming up and drawing air up into it, and then outflows overnight where it's doing the reverse. It's cooling down and all the air moves back out. So this is the only last anchorage that is actually protected from the main inlet, so you can get out of those outflow winds in the night, because they can get up to like 35, 40 knots sometimes. So basically from here, you can only really go up if the weather is nice and settled, and you can temporarily anchor in some of the deep water anchorages on the way and not be too exposed. So we're hoping that we did our research properly and that the weather is indeed going to be pretty settled over the next couple of days, and that we won't have to deal with too many of those winds.
Or anchor snags, or
any of it, really.
Any of the other challenges.
But yeah, those are some of the challenges here in Bute Inlet, but we're told that it's otherwise a pretty incredible and magical place to go visit.
There's a giant log in the ladder.
Log stuck in the ladder, eh?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it out, but...
He'll probably just come out when we swing.
Yeah. Forgot my sandals, so...
Oh shoot.
Guess I'm doing it barefoot. With our sails up, we started to work our way to windward, sipping coffee and enjoying the incredible vistas while keeping an eye out for logs, dreaded deadheads, and other floating objects. We had picked a very settled weather window to travel up the inlet, downside being that settled weather can also mean minimal to no wind. There was enough outflow wind that we were sailing 3 knots. However, we were only making 1 knot over ground. The beautiful turquoise waters of Bute Inlet are the result of fresh glacial runoff sitting on top of denser salt water of the ocean. And this fresh flow of water has its own 2-knot outflow current, meaning we would have 2 knots of current slowing us down the entire passage.
Ready?
Yeah. Woo! 0.7. We made a little headway, tacking back and forth across the inlet before the wind completely died. So we rolled in our headsail and turned on our tractor engine in order to gain some ground. Shortly after, a large creature caught our eye across the way. A black bear scrounging around on the rocks, looking for shellfish and other tidal critters. And then another one just a few meters away, happily sitting in a bush, having a scratch. Sticking close to the coastline to minimize our fight with the current, we improved our speed over ground. But we still had a long journey ahead of us to get to safe anchorage before nightfall.
You're working on a project there, I see.
And we are removing the caulking from around the base of the pedestal here because it's been leaking into the quarter berth. So gonna remove all the old caulking and then just reseal it whilst we're underway.
Snaking our way slowly up the inlet, the landscape around us began to change dramatically. The blue hue of the water intensified. Mountains grew more rugged, and glaciers began to reveal themselves. The mystic of Bute Inlet now captivating our full attention.
In researching the beta for this trip up Bute Inlet, we came across a blog that made mention of an old logging float tied up across a small alcove just to the southwest of Orford Bay. A potential place to tie up to, tucked away from the outflow of the main inlet. We thought that this nook could be a cool spot to check out and might save us the hassle of some deep water anchoring.
How deep?
The rear's in 70 feet, so it comes up really quick. I'm just going to bring the transom of the boat around over this end, okay?
Yeah.
The charts show the outflow of a small creek with a flattish depth of 30 feet. There was plenty of evidence that a float had been tied across the alcove at some point with a logging cable stretched from side to side. The float, sadly, is long gone, and after sounding the area, the charts also appear to be pretty inaccurate. 100 feet over the stern now.
Would you reverse back?
I could probably reverse back a little bit.
So would you angle and stern tie to something?
Either that, or we could do like one of those fisherman anchors where you tie off to the bow to a tree and tie the stern off to a tree across the bay. We could do that because it's narrow enough and deep enough. So according to Navionics, we should be in like 0.9 of a meter.
Yeah.
So that's not right.
No.
And then here on our sounding, you can see that on one like frequency, the bottom, saying that the bottom is at like 90 feet, and then in a different frequency it's saying that it's at 65 feet. Because this is saying that there's a whole lot of like increasing depth density
Yeah.
in the bottom here,
Okay.
and I don't know what that is. Like muck and algae, and
Probably.
is it actually going to be good holding is the question.
We don't know.
We don't really know. I'm going to reverse back and see. All of this information was very conflicting. Our sounder showed a range of depths from 180 feet to 65 feet with a very variable bottom density.
What are you in?
No idea.
Not reading?
It says anywhere between 100 and like 200.
Really?
Clearly not the 30-odd feet of flattish bottom depicted in the charts that would have made for good anchoring. We decided to make a series of sweeping passes around the nook and build up a mental map of the bottom contours before attempting to drop our anchor and hook into the ocean floor.
Touch the bottom.
That's the bottom?
Around 90.
That's 120 you're at?
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Alright, we'll lock it off at 120 and we'll see if we can get it to bite.
Okay.
Alright.
Bouncing. You're still reversing?
Yeah. Still moving backwards.
Okay, no.
It might be more secure just to tie the boat off between the two rock sides than relying on the holding of the bottom.
Okay.
Which I don't think it will be that difficult to set up, really. But if I had to tie the boat off, I'd tie it off basically across here.
Okay.
After a few unsuccessful attempts at anchoring, we decided to employ an alternative mooring technique that we hadn't used before and triangulate Uinta between the walls of the nook with mooring lines.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll let you know next week how we made out overnight in the Nook. We journey the rest of the way to the head of the inlet and anchor in the most incredible place we've ever been. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. If you're interested to help support our videos, you can join our pals on Patreon. For as little as $3 a creation, you get to enjoy the episodes a week early, ad-free. All proceeds go directly to our video production and allow us to keep making videos for you every week. Thank you to our newest patrons, Doug and Ed. You guys are awesome. See you next Wednesday.